Harry, you've been playing Spider-Man 2. My son's been playing Spider-Man 2. I have not played it yet. I'm looking forward. Well, I'm not super excited for Spider-Man 2, only because like it's just button mashy. It's a very button mash. Like I don't like the combat very much, and I know that everybody else does. So I know that I'm in the minority. But take it away. Tell us about Spider-Man 2 because I've heard nothing but good things.
So I played the original Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales, and it more or less kind of follows that same thing, but because it's PS5 only, they've been able to beef it up a bunch. When you're going through stuff, I would say that it doesn't become immediately apparent the upgrades that they've done. Like you can see it if you just stop and look, but when you're going through things, I wouldn't say that the graphic fidelity is immediately noticeable. If I don't really notice it unless I stop. So it, I want to just say that because while it does have that, it still feels like Spider-Man. The parry system that is in Spider-Man 2 makes combat a little bit easier. I am playing on spectacular difficulty, which I believe is the hardest that you can initially do from the onset. And there's difficulty that's there. Basically, you basically can get hit like 3 times and then you're dead. But because of the spider sense, like you just have to hit a button, either parry or dodge when you see your spider sense turn red. So it's fairly easy combat wise. And then I've been leveling up pretty fast. I think I'm like save wise, I'm like 20% done with the game. So for the most part, in my own personal scoring method, I would probably say it's like an 8 out of 10. But then again, it starts off very strong and then kind of like meanders wherever it's going right now. Like it's building up the story. And there's just some parts that I'm just not really like caring about. Like it's like you're with Harry and you're biking and it's just like trying to tell this story where I'm not a huge. I like Spider-Man, but I guess I'm not a big Spider-Man head where I'm like enjoying. If this was almost as like a comic book read through, like you're getting to the exposition and all the other stuff, it's very slow. And some of the missions that I'm playing, some of the things that they've done, just to like the variety to spice up the game so you're not doing the same thing over and over again, some of them are kind of cool. Other ones where you're just like, it's what is the word for it? It's an Easter egg hunt, scavenger hunt. Is basically what it does come to. So you're in an area and you just do a mini scavenger hunt for stuff. And it's just mostly a waste of time because you're like, well, where is it? And it's like on the side of a building. And you can immediately see where it is just by doing this like focus things. You press in R3 and it kind of broadcasts out your spider sense. And it's not very fun. So I think they're called like EMF. There's just like things there. So like right now I'm in a bad pitch of where Spider-Man 2 is, so I think I'm kind of like in a whatever space for Spider-Man 2. Overall, it's fun. The flying part, the web gliding part, I think has been the best inclusion for Spider-Man because just like swinging around, I always felt was like not fast enough for me. And after you've been doing it for a while, you're like, just let me get to this spot. And I feel like web gliding has been such a great thing where I'll just like do this big swing and then start web gliding to get where I want to get to faster. And you can see the air currents. So the sense of speed and traveling around is much, much faster. So that whole part I've been loving about Spider-Man 2. But it's pretty much more of the same so far, and I'm just waiting for it to get to a bit of a crescendo at the moment. I'm in a bit of a lull spot where I'm kind of doing some things from a game design standpoint where they're just trying to add variety, and I think it's a miss in some spaces. Not all of them, just in some spaces. I don't know how much. It's still early on, so I don't know if it's a spoiler, but like, like you have your little web crawler guy that you're going through his little
like the
spot
robot?
and, yeah.
Okay.
So that happens again. So there's just things that I guess that are what you would expect, and it's just more of the same.
More of the same seems like what a lot of people want. What were you going to say, Rich?
Exactly that, right? So when we were talking about comfort games, Spider-Man was one of those for me, right? Like I didn't mind the lack of difficulty, let's say, in a combat. I felt like there was a rhythm to it that just made it like I could kind of drone out and just enjoy the rhythm of it, and then come back to like the story parts and things like that, and also those different like side challenges. I enjoyed all of them, at least in Spider-Man and Miles Morales. So I enjoyed those scavenger hunts. They especially, I think I had turned something off or something on or something to make it a little more difficult, but it reminded me when I was in those scavenger hunts, it reminded me of like Crackdown, right? Like finding the orb, and that was always fun to me.
I think Crackdown broke me. I will say, because I did get all 500 agility orbs.
Oh my gosh.
It was so
I had
good.
498 of them, and then I got, like, I did it, like, by myself.
Yeah,
And then I had
right.
498. I'm like, I'm only missing 2. Let me get a map. And then I went through the entire thing, like, Xing out the ones I did. And after
Yeah.
I got the last 2, I was like, don't think I'm ever going to do this ever again, just for an achievement or whatever. Like, it was
Yeah.
something that I was just like, I got so burnt out from that. It also, like, World of Warcraft burned me out on grinding. If I ever get like a whiff of like a repetitive thing to just do whatever, I immediately get turned off and I just don't want to do it anymore. Even though the combat is like easier, I still love it. I don't want to say that it's. I would say that it's still not as good as Batman Arkham Knight was, because Batman, I feel, still like has a better punctuation of like each hit, right? Like there's just like this like audible cue and everything else that I think Batman still does a little bit better than Insomniac Spider-Man. However, the variety of everything that you can do, and then switching between Miles and Peter Parker and their different abilities, the flow that you're talking about, there's almost like a creativity to it. Like you're like, I'm going to dispatch them in this manner, and it's like just like web whipping them up and getting them up, and then getting the power ups so that you can then swing them around, and also doing it to the brutes and stuff. That type of stuff I really enjoy. So the combat side of it, even though it's relatively simple and it become a little bit easier with the parry system, that's not a knock on the game. I'm just saying that that's still I probably find myself, if I see a crime happening, I will make a beeline to it, just because I'm like, I feel like having some combat right now, as opposed to some of the other stuff that's going on there. So yeah, I mean, I've been playing through it, but right now my time has been just atrocious lately. So I've been like kind of like pushing myself. I'm like, I gotta just play a game. So I've been pushing myself into Spider-Man 2 whenever I have a free moment. And really right now I'm waiting to just get into the crescendo part of it, like where where we're going to start building back up. But the beginning scene, which I think everyone's seen, the Sandman scene, is a phenomenal intro to a game. I think the only part that I would say is a negative, and this is a personal thing for me, I am so opposed to tutorials at all. Like if it just says, like if it just like pauses and slows down the game, it's like press X to attack, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I think I could figure out a simple button. Like just let me fail. Like, all right, like press X to jump, press square to attack. And I'm like, goodness gracious, guys. Like, yes, I realize that I can do that. Like, you don't have to slow everything down. Just have a tooltip while something is happening. But this like constant speed bump that they just pushed in, I felt like is a negative. That is like, there's just so much stuff happening, and you like want to be enthralled in it. And it's just like, look at all this climax, but wait, hold on. Hold down L1 and then press X. Okay, go ahead.
I don't want to set you off on another tangent, but I'm curious. How do you feel about holding a button to confirm something? Like waiting for the
that whole mechanic that they've entered into. I don't know why game devs have gotten into that whole thing, but it seems like all of them have universally agreed to like hold to confirm.
Yeah.
When did that start? Like, could you find the origin of when that like really started happening in every game dev? Like, yeah, that's a good thing that we should do that.
I think you could. I think it was like mid to late last generation. I can't pinpoint it right now.
I think it started with like when you had to buy something, or when you had to like use experience points, like when it was an actual like consequential action. But now it's just like for anything, they just want to kind of slow the pacing down.
Open a chest, you have to hold the button.
Yeah,
right.
I was thinking of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like, if you want to open a door, you walk up, you hold triangle for a long time, and I'm like,
right.
Part of me is like, did they do this to add 4 seconds to gameplay so they could say that they have this much time? We put 4,000 doors in this game. Each one's 4 seconds. Divide that by, that's an extra hour or something, you know? And it drives me crazy.
I feel like
and
it's to
the same
imply
when
labor.
What's
Sorry,
that?
I
Oh,
didn't mean to cut you
yeah.
off.
I mean, that makes sense, but I don't need that.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
That's one thing that they actually do in Spider-Man 2 that I am on the fence about. So, like, there's like a marker, right? And you're getting to it to start a mission. There's like two different things to it, and I feel like I'm getting whiplash between both of them. You know those tech stashes that they have, where you can just like press triangle or square to like open up the thing to get the tech parts or whatever. You have to stand directly in front of it instead of being anywhere around it, and then wait for like the little button to like highlight. I always hate that because like, come on, just let me get the thing.
Yeah.
And then they have the other side of it where if there's a mission marker, if you're like 20 meters away from it or whatever it is, you don't even have to be like on it. It will just immediately start the mission. So you don't even have to press a button, you just go near it and it just starts you into it, which is it's a weird whiplash between the two different ones where it's like, just do the thing and wait, hold on. I was just near there. I wasn't going there. I was actually going to the crime scene that I was swinging by, but it actually just started me into the mission. So that's like a weird juxtaposition that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. So whenever I see a mission marker, I'll like give it a wide berth if I'm trying to go to somewhere else, because it will auto initiate a mission if you're just within a general proximity of where it needs to start.
I would really like to see as like a way to fix that is because I ran into this in Forza Horizon 5 is when I wanted to go start a race, I would accidentally like drive, like I wouldn't hit the brakes hard enough and I'd drive past the point where you had to be like within this radius in order to start it. So what would be the best way to handle that, in my opinion, is as you drive by a thing or swing, if you're Spider-Man or whatever, just have it go into a list, kind of like in Diablo 3 when you were using a controller and you looted stuff. It went into a list in the bottom right corner, bottom left corner, and you could just use your D-pad to go through that list real quick and say, I want to do that, I want to do that, I want to do that. Just have that happen as you swing by or as you go up to a chest or when you drive by a thing in Forza. All of that would be better than trying to make sure that your character is standing in the exact right spot or accidentally triggering stuff that you don't actually want to trigger. Russ, have you been playing Spider-Man? Because I know that Rich and I haven't yet.
No, I have not. I'm two thoughts, right? Number one is that Spider-Man, the first one, wasn't a great fit for me. Part of that has to do with Crackdown, because I did the same thing where I tried to get all the agility orbs, and then I had a red ring of death, and I lost my save game, and so like I never went back, and I was just kind of feeling bad about that. But so I've always been really kind of apprehensive about those types of games. Like, for example, with the first Spider-Man, went through all the tutorial stuff, went through the story stuff, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, and now the world is unlocked for you. And I immediately turned it off. And I was like, I'll get to that now when I have time, basically. And I never got back to it.
Too intimidating.
Yeah, it's just too much. And so now I'm of the thought with Spider-Man 2, I'm like, oh, I hope it comes to PC because maybe by then I'll play through the first two, like that and Miles Morales, and so I'm just not ready for it yet, but I'm very patient, and so I'm willing to wait if it does come to PC.
I haven't been playing it, but I ended up reinstalling Spider-Man, like the first one, on my PS5 because it's part of their Game Pass. I can never remember what it is. PS Plus. It's part of PS Plus, so I don't have to buy it. I don't have to buy Miles Morales. I installed it and I started playing again, and I'm fighting Kingpin right now. So that's like super, super early.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. I probably will still play it on PS5 just because my PC's kind of trash. Like it's showing its age at this point. But I want to play the first one and Miles Morales before, because like it's a story heavy game, right? Like I want to make sure that I get the whole story, and so
I think you should.
I don't feel like I want to start at Spider-Man 2 and then be like, well, I guess I better go to YouTube and find out what happened. So I haven't been playing it either.
There's they have a button that you can press when you're starting the game to get a recap of what was going on, so it can get you up to speed. I did that as well, just to get like a refresher, because I never finished Miles. I never finished Spider-Man 1 either. But both of them, I'm probably going to finish Spider-Man 2 just because I prefer the direction that they're going with it. Like just from the trailers and stuff, like I want to get to a certain segment of the thing. We know Venom's in there, right? So I want to get to Venom at least. Is what it really comes down to for me. But yeah, I don't know. I wish that like accessibility options are great and all, and I think accessibility is great. But one of the best things about accessibility is that you can turn things on or off. And I think I would like to just have a general option to not show me tutorials. You know, you look at like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. One of the best things that I think everyone universally agrees on is like, I didn't know you could do that. The sense of discovery on like different things is part of the joy of the game. And if you just have a tutorial telling you each and everything and like having you like forced to do this thing, it takes away some of the coolness of it and it's more of a chore. I just would rather fail. Like, okay, well, what am I supposed to do here? And I'd rather have a tooltip show up or something. I don't know. That's my sense of how things are. I much preferred how Breath of the Wild handled things, tutorial-wise. You look at like Dark Souls and everyone loving Dark Souls. They kind of don't hold your hand. They're just like, figure it out. Go out there and figure things out. And it's a very old school mentality, but I still think that some of the best games that are like GOTY tier are all the ones that don't have big tutorials.
I have one more thing I want to say about Spider-Man, but I want to follow up on that. There's a game, I'm sure you, Carrie, you may have had a chance to play it, but I'm sure most people didn't. Mosalina is out right now. It's a small indie puzzle game, and it gives you almost no instructions, and it's the best for that. So like basically you have to get like the MacGuffins in the level. It's like a single screen puzzle platformer thing. You have to get the MacGuffins and you have to make it back to the goal. That's the game, and they give you these tools, but the thing is the tools are randomized. So you may get the gun that shoots out like an elevator, or you may get the gun that shoots out these little platforms, or you may get the gun that shoots out these long platforms that are really unstable, and it's all like physics based. And the weapons you get, or the tools you get, and the level you get may not match each other. So it is possible that you end up in a scenario where you can't finish the level, and it doesn't tell you that. But the thing is, it's really low stakes. Like you have like, it's going to take you like 30 seconds to try, basically 30 to 60 seconds to try. And it's going to start you on the next level immediately. Whatever the next level is going to randomly generate it. So it's really low stakes. And then that feeling you get when you thought it was impossible and you do it anyway, like that feels really good. It sounds more miserable than it is. I would recommend giving it a try. But yeah, it's really strange.
What's the name of it called again?
It's Mosalina. So like Mona Lisa, except the letters are transposed. Yeah.
There's have any of you guys heard of Frog Fractions?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Frog Fractions is a game that I would recommend you guys play. And it's along the same lines. The developer really has a sense of when we were all kids growing up, and it was almost like that schoolyard talk of you didn't know if people were bullshitting you or not, or like BSing you or not, or just kind of, you couldn't know if something was going to happen, so you'd go home and try it later on. So you'd have this
unlock Akuma.
yeah, or
Mortal Kombat.
Guile's handcuff ability
combo.
So there's that type of thing where Frog Fractions has that, where you play it and it's like, well, this is a very simple game, and then all of a sudden it goes off the deep end real fast, and then you're experiencing the game. And it's one of those games, much like Dark Souls is, where if you go on the internet to learn how to play the game, you are actually doing a disservice to yourself, because you are not giving yourself the chance to learn what the game is trying to like convey to you. So there's an interesting idea there, which I really love, is that finding things your own are like where the fun of the game is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I get a similar feeling with Braid back in the day, like on the PS3 when I played that one, because it gives you a little bit of tutorial, and then it's like, okay, we're gonna step it up, and you need to step it up now too, and we're not gonna tell you how, basically. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of Braid, because it was frustrating for me sometimes at times, but when I would actually get it, I would be like, oh, it's awesome. And like, I got to remember how I did that, because I will never be able to do that again. I really like that feeling.
Yeah, that was really good. By the way,
That's
the last thing I
awesome.
wanted to say about Spider-Man was I have a friend that is really enjoying it, and he said, and this is something I'm going to do because this is my kind of jam. He said, for extra challenge, I recommend enabling fall damage and taking off all the auto swinging stuff. So you're just, if you fall from large heights because you can't manage the swinging, you just kick the bucket.
I saw a video of somebody who had turned off the auto swing, the swing assistance or something,
Yeah.
and they smacked into the side of a building real hard and died.
I love
and
it.
it was very funny.
Yeah, so I'm at least going to try that. If it doesn't work for me, if I'm not into it, then I'm not into it, but that sounds like something I have to try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real quick, I'm just gonna go ahead, Carrie.
Oh no, the only thing I was going to say is that the best thing I think about for Spider-Man 2 for me has been that it's been a great palate cleanser because it's been the exact opposite of what Starfield was. Starfield was felt like everything was loading, so you're just loading everywhere constantly, and the sense of progression, how fast things are in Spider-Man 2 have been refreshing compared against that. So that's the only thing I wanted to say.
Which is good because I guess the game's people get mad about this, but it's only 20 hours. I'm like, that sounds fine to me. That doesn't
perfect,
bother
yeah.
me
That's
even a
more
little.
than enough. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep.